Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Burn the Wagon, where we're here to burn the wagon that's capitalism, patriarchy, and colonialism. Today, my guest is Sal Martinez, but we're going to get to the prayer real quick before we get started on anything else. First, I want to send love to my friend Tyree Ritchie. I want to send love to anybody out there suffering from mental health issues. I want to send love to anybody suffering from domestic violence issues. I want to send love to our unhoused community. I want to send love to precious Mother Earth, and where we come to you today is from Pomo territory. I want to send love to anyone in the Congo, in Sudan, in Palestine that's suffering from the genocide that's happening right now. But today, my guest, like I said, is Sal Martinez, a returning guest, but with this new style I'm doing, I want to just have him back on and kind of go over some things that all the new listeners haven't really listened to. But first, I really want to start with because last episode I was kind of talking with Linda and them trying to tell the story of our res because there's two different reses. Um, so the history of what is the original res and the reservation we live on now, what the history of that is.
It's a kind of a interesting story, I would have to say. It's an interesting story because it's well, first, California when they started out with the Spanish invasion, with the missions and so forth, that we didn't have reservations then. But it wasn't until that the United States came that in around like 1850, uh, I guess like there was federal Indian agents that came here. One was appointed to go south, and the other one was appointed to go north to make treaties, and they made the treaties. But the first governor of California at that time was like don't authorize the treaties. Like we have a way to handle the Indian problem. Talking about California legislatures of that time, and their idea of handling the Indian problem was an act called the Act for the Governing and Protection of California Indians. What does the act entail? The act entailed where uh, it granted um, it granted pretty much like anybody who was like non-native or anybody of that nature to be able to go into like a village, excuse me, a village, and take a child, um, take a youth pretty much, and of course they had to ask permission, but with permission, they would take them, and then they would take them over to like a nearby justice of the peace to either ask if they could have them um, under their what do you call it, under their
Under their rule, or
like under their rule, but like how like when you adopt a kid.
yeah, like adoption agency
It
almost.
was almost like that, but it's just like under their care, I guess.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just using that is as I know there's another way you could say it, but care. But like under their care, or if the justice of peace didn't think that that person was able to take care of that child, that they would take him over to another port of trade, a major port of trade, which was places like Eureka, California, San Francisco. Like we're talking like all major ports of trade, and and then they would get auctioned off, and then they would get assigned to a ranch, and then the rancher's obligation is to pretty much teach them English, give them like an education, teach them a trade, which a lot of times of that time, within the first 80 years, Native people were pretty much uh, tasked to only doing like ranch work.
Mm-hmm.
Men were tasked to being like ranch hands. The women were pretty much taught to be like housemaids. Um,
So that's why you have rancherias in California.
Getting there.
Okay.
So like so so they were taught that, and then they were also given good Christian names. Good Christian names. Like a lot of the names say, like if you were to go look at that original list of on RSA enrollment, you go look at the 1936 enrollment. You'll see, like if you just concentrate on all the last names, all of those last names you got. You say you got James, you got Ball, you got Lawson, you got Panola, you got Poe, you got all those names are rooted in old ranch names, in old ranch names. I remember one time asking my gram if like our name came from like a ranch, and then she was like, I don't. She goes, I don't know. I don't remember them ever talking about that. So then I started explaining that story to her and stuff, and then she was just like, you know what? Come to think of it, I know my father did go to like this one ranch like a lot, and that was called the Ball Ranch, somewhere in the valley. And I'm just like, well, there you go. So there's like I think more north of, in the valley, say like in Ukiah area, there was like what do you call it? There was like a Bechtel Ranch. I think you'll still see some remnants of it if you go up into Willits. If you go up to Willits, and you'll start seeing the last name like Bechtel here and there.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like spelt what we're familiar with, but it's obviously you could tell
There's a
Bechtel.
connection.
And then Poe, yeah. There's a story. There's a story about how in that one book called Mendocino Remembered. I don't know. It's a two-parter. It's like thick books, but there's this one guy who was a descendant of William Bill Poe, white guy, rancher, who said himself, like, do you guys know about the story of like how the Indians got the last name Poe? So he told this whole story of how the Indians got the last name Poe, and pretty much was that William Poe got a posse together because he noticed that his horses were stolen, and he tracked down the thieves, the horse thieves, by this creek, and actually this creek is in Philo, and he tracked them down right there. He saw smoke, and then he was like, they had one person go out to go look and see if it's them or whatever. Went down there, seen all of his horses there with his his little ranch burn mark on him, and and then 1, 2, 3, go. They went down in there and pretty much ransacked like all the men, but most of them were like boys, like young guys. So they killed all the men, and then he took the boys, and like I was telling you, the 1850 Act for the Government and Protection of Indians allowed him to like pretty much take them under his care, and gave them good Christian names, and his last name Poe. So that's a pretty crazy story. But like so the first 80 years of that kind of environment, first 80 years, I mean, they even call it like the Mendocino Wars. But as one Indian agent, I think it was like a minority agent reported, from the federal government, reported or put in his report that like that we hear of this Mendocino War, but he goes, judging by the pro-dominant white population tell me, that like it's like they say they're in fear, but they're the one. But like you have all these stories are related to like posses of men killing like indiscriminately like Native people, right? And like he's like, there's no Mendocino Wars here. You might as well just say there's like a massacre. There's massacres going on here. So like so for that chunk of time, like we sort of like went without reservations. We had no reservations. Like state of California, I think there's like only 2. Hoopa actually got a reservation, and then we had the Mendocino Reservation, which is like the Fort Bragg area, and then Then over there in Covelo, Round Valley, that was the reservation. But they opened those up to where, because of like killing and the indiscriminate killing and all that stuff was going on, that the federal government was just like, well, these Indians have nowhere else to go. We got to try to help these people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, oh, come to find out, like, they're not totally useless. They could actually learn. So, like, they're hard workers. So it's like, let's try to help them out in, whatever way. And then was it the Fort Bragg reservation didn't work out. So then they moved all their resources over to the Round Valley reservation. But then when they were trying to move people over from there, and people just ended up just escaping like middle of the night, going back to where they were originally from. But then the families, the ones who like were moved there, then they escaped. They ended up trying to go back to their place of that they've always known as home, and then found that there was like a store there. They found like there was like homes there, roads there all of a sudden, and they're just like, dude, like our world like totally changed, right? and then like I guess between like 1850 and 1870 there was like a sort of like a native revival of old ways, which that's called it's written in this book called the 1870 Ghost Dance by Cora Dubois.
Cora Dubois.
Yeah, Cora Dubois. She interviewed actually Sea Lion White and Susie Shoemaker.
Mm-hmm. Pretty sure that Sea Lion White would be one of my relatives.
Yeah, that's the Whites. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you call it? But yeah, it's a good book. But pretty much like it paints you a picture of like there was this. It only lasted for 2 years, but pretty much that's where like our roundhouse comes from.
Mm.
Was that dream that came? Like there was a proselytizer. I forget what his name. I think it was like Lame Bill or something. But he was like he was either like Pasquenta or something like that. But he was like he went around and was like spreading the message that originally started with Wutsi Wup from Walker River. He was a Walker River Paiute Indian.
Mm.
But he had this dream that he had this dream where if you dig because their thing is round dance.
Mm-hmm.
Paiutes, man, they love round dance.
Mm-hmm.
And like but his dream is like if you put on this paint, if you cover your body in paint, and then you were like to dance around the fire with this song that he learned from a dream that he had, that like it'll take you to be able to meet with your dead relatives. And like a lot of people like I guess there were accounts of like where people would like keep dancing, and then they would like pass out, and then they would be like there was one story where this lady like passed out from exhaustion, and she was like asleep for 4 days, and they thought she was dead, but she was still breathing. So they were just like, I wonder if anything else is wrong. But then she woke up and told everybody what happened. She said, I was like with my relatives. I was like with people that like didn't live for a very long time. Like even one person came up to me and says like, oh, hey, you're my relative. Like, I don't know if you remember me. Like I was that baby that died at birth, that kind of thing. And she was just, and then she said that, I always hear my mother crying over that. Like, could you go back and tell her like, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. Like just, cause I hate to hear her crying.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
That's tripped out.
Yeah, it's a good book, dude.
Yeah.
Like
and you're saying these things is what our roundhouse came from?
Like so that's where the fervor kind of started.
Oh, okay.
And then you got this guy, and then you had proselytizers who pretty much participated. When you go to like a basketball tournament or something, and then you see like, oh, I like how they actually do that. That's something new, and it works.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So you all of a sudden you end up being a proselytizer.
I see.
Where you're just like, oh, I like that idea. Let's let's snatch that, and I love that, and I'm gonna add that into like my thing.
I see.
So there's this guy, I think it was Lane Bill, that just pretty much like swept through, like he went from there and he like swept through like, you know, going into Southern Cal, or even into our neck of the woods, not Southern California, but South. He swept through South and ran into like Wind Tunes. He ran into like Pitt River people. He ran into like all these different people, and was just spreading the gospel of like, you know, but he kind of, I think it was him or somebody else ended up changing it, tweaking it a little bit to where it's just like, oh, you know, if you do this dance, it went from, if you do this dance, you'll be able to communicate with the dead. To, if you do this dance, it's going to protect you from this great wind that's going to come and sweep away all the things that make the Indian suffer, and then bring back all the things that makes the Indian happy. And like, and this roundhouse is what's going to help you, is going to help protect you from that great wind that's going to come. And if you don't practice part of this, then the great wind is just going to sweep you away with the whites, and then like all the dead's going to come back. All the dead that was killed by white people, they're going to come back. You know, that kind of thing. So essentially, that's where, say, the surface, because obviously, I mean, we had a roundhouse already, but it was subterranean.
That's what I've been hearing a lot lately.
Yeah, it's subterranean. So like the one that we have now, I mean, it is old. Definitely a construction from 1870, or maybe like around like 1879, or no, 1869. 1869, somewhere around there. But like the way how it's built and it's like totally on the surface, that's new compared to like our subterranean one.
I see.
So like, yeah, so that only lasted for 2 years. They were just like, this great wind never came, obviously. But as one poet by the name of, he's Paiute. Oh man, I can't think of his name right now. But he wrote in one of his books, in one of his poem books, he said that, like, you know, they say that the ghost dance like didn't work. He goes, well, I mean, pretty much he says, you know, I think it works because, you know, now you see like, you know, all these brown people coming up from, you know, Southern California, and they're like making us browner again, like, so like, or keeping us brown, you know, so like. But the way how he said it, it sounded like way better. But that's what I could remember from reading that. Not Vine Deloria Jr., but oh gosh, I can't think of his name. He's from also yeah, he stayed. If you look up his book called what do you call it? Among the Dog Eaters. He has a poem book. He has a poem of books called Among the Dog Eaters.
It's such a funny name to me for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you know, it's definitely, he's among the Lakota people. He's like, the dog eaters.
Yeah.
But like, so with that, so you had that stuff going on. And then by the time, say like about around 1900, we ended up getting some help. Maybe like 1920. I want to say around 1920. We ended up getting some help from this group called the Northern California Indian Association. Northern California Indian Association, what do you call it? They were all women group, originally from Boston, and they're, you know, Christian. They were like a Christian group, and then they ended up coming. At some point, they ended up connecting with people here because their whole mission was that they wanted to, like, you know, give people like a good education. Be able to survive, that kind of thing. Their whole thing is that we made the Indians miserable. We need to help these people out. Be able to read, be able to write, be able to, you know, get a good job, that kind of stuff. Because if we don't, then they're going to be just like the poorest of whites. That was just like their whole thing. But, you know, coming out of what do you call it? What people call that? It's like white guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where that comes from. But like, but in some way, shape, or form, it actually worked out in our favor because, you know, long story short or whatever, that they ended up helping us with the aid of their lawyer, Charles E. Kelsey. You could actually Google his name too, and there's like a whole nice thing written about him from this lady by the name of Miller. I don't know. It's been a long time since I talked
And that's
about
a separate
this.
guy from Kelseyville.
Separate guy.
Okay.
Yeah, separate guy. I know. I remember one time I posted that on Facebook, and somebody was just all like, "Oh, they're just like, just like white historians are just like, they're just trying to like make like all these bad people good and stuff." I was like, I think you're mixing up. Like, there's more than one Kelsey. Like, but it's like, but it's a different Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
It's but this guy, he was all about like he was the one that really started the conversation about if California Indians did have treaties. And this was after when actually Northern California Indian Association did a bunch of these fundraising campaigns to where they wanted to help Native people purchase land. And we were like their pet project. And so they helped us at least purchase 20 acres, which is like right around the roundhouse there.
Oh, okay.
They helped us purchase like 28. It started out there, 20 acres. And then they asked the question of like, do California Indians have treaties? And so he wrote a letter to the Senate and, asking that question. And then the Senate wrote him back after X amount of months saying that, like, we got your letter, we looked in the library, and all we could find is a receipt that said that treaties were made, but they were never ratified. Like, they were never made into law.
Mm-hmm.
So upon that discovery, Congress ended up getting more involved, and they were just all like, yeah, we had people, it looks like we had people go out there and make treaties, and we didn't fulfill our duty. And the United States is weird about that. The United States is weird. They're just like, we want you gone. But if we find ourselves, if we acknowledge and find ourselves that we did something wrong, they're just like, oh, well then now we need to do something to kind of try to make it up.
Yeah.
Like it's just this weird thing that, and this goes on through the time, right? They're just like, well, the Indians aren't a threat anymore. Oh, I guess we'll help them now.
Yeah.
But like, so, what do you call it? So they ended up sending an agent out, and then they're just like, they looked at the 20 acres and stuff. They're just like, oh yeah, this is a nice place, say whoever whoever the leaders were, or the families. They were just like, say, what if we told you that it just doesn't stop here? What if we told you like we'll give you the rest of the hill, and we'll give you like an extra over here, extra over there. We'll give you that, say you're at the roundhouse, right? We'll give you like a little piece even over there.
By the river or whatever.
Across the river there, We'll give you a little piece over there. Oh, sorry. We'll give you a little piece over there.
No, just kidding.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
We'll give you a little piece over there, and like, and yeah. Would that be okay? And then they're just all like, yeah. And he's just like, okay, cool. And then we'll give you some money too, to where you'd be able to like, build your, start you off with your homes, hook you up with some food too, So we'll try to make it good, And then just like from what my gram said, she goes, yeah, I remember like when we came home from work that like, they had like these shacks built. She was just like, yeah, one person shack, and there's like 7 of us, and they expect us to live in a shack.
Fucking insane.
Yeah. So it was like that for a while. I mean, she remembered that. She was like, and then I do the math on that, like when she was born. By the time that she was born, so by the time that my grandmother was born, like the enactment of that law, the Act for the Government and Protection of Indians, was like still in effect. And it wasn't until like she was like in her teenage years that she was pretty much first generation reservation Native person. Like her generation is like first generation Native
on the reservation.
Yeah. So say like it would be like my grandmother's first generation, my mom's second, and I'm third.
Yeah.
So it's like, so we haven't had the reservation for a very long time. People wanted like, we always kind of you always kind of like want to make it seem like, oh, this happened like a really long time ago. But then when you do the math, you're just like, that didn't happen very long ago. It's still kind of fresh, still a little fresh. Even in the '90s when they were talking like that, they were just all like, yeah, it didn't happen that long ago. It's like even my going into 2024, I'm just like, yeah, no, it's still kind of fresh, dude.
I mean, my
Like,
mom was born in 1950, and when was segregation outlawed? Like 1960 something, I think. So she was in her teens when that happened.
so even during that time, Indians weren't allowed to vote.
Yeah. So like her, and that's something she like takes pretty seriously. I've noticed in her life, and maybe that's the reason because like she noticed that her mom wasn't allowed to vote.
Or we weren't even allowed to go to the bar.
That's insane.
Couldn't go to the bar. If you had to go to, if you wanted to go to the theater, you had to sit all the way in the back. That was the Indian section. I always tell my kids that every time we go to the theater. I'm just all like, they're just like, oh yeah, we could sit back here or whatever. I'm just, you want to sit in the Indian section? They're just all like, they're just like, what? I'm like, the Indian section. I was like, you know how long it took for us to be able to be allowed to sit up front or even in the middle?
Yeah.
You want to sit back here?
Yeah. Sounds like I'm sitting front row every time.
Dude, I love the front. I love sitting at least in the third row.
Yeah.
I like the third row. I like sitting in front.
I do too. I'm gonna be honest, but I don't know.
Yeah, but other people are just like, no, sit back here, whatever. I was like, we're in a theater.
Yeah. Well, you saying that also makes me think of like obviously like the bus situation with Rosa Parks, and then when you go back to like you saying about people getting the last names of the ranches or whatever, it takes me back to like enslaved people getting the last names of the
Other slave masters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of like that. So the funny thing is, California, so in the Act for the Government and Protection of Indians, it didn't allow for ranchers to own Indians hypothetically. Like technically, they were, so in the law they deemed them as indentured servants. So they could take them like when they were like, say like if they took them at the age of 6. And then they got them, under their care.
Yeah.
That they were only able to have them until they were at the age of 18. But say like, and then they're just like, yeah, you can do whatever you want now. But then say like when they're the age of 18, because they weren't technically U.S. citizens. They weren't. They couldn't vote. They couldn't buy land. They couldn't do a lot of stuff that they just ended up just kind of just staying at the ranch because
yeah, what's the point? Like
now they're at a place where it's just like they have their their uncle.
Yeah.
They have their white uncle.
They made it in a way that people were reliant to come back.
Well, it's the same thing like after when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. That the slave masters was like, hey, you're free now, you can do whatever you want. They're like, yeah, we're free. And then they're just like, wait a second, like if I try to go out there, like how am I gonna like feed myself?
Yeah.
I need a house.
Yeah.
And I need this and I need that. And so even with black slaves too, they ended up just staying at the slave master's house. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Staying at the plantation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so with the advent of the Northern California Indian Association came like a sweep where Indian agents were going to different communities being all like, yeah, sorry, and then just pretty much saying that like, yeah, well this will be your land, it'll be government land, you don't have to pay taxes, this is yours, this is just yours, you do whatever you want. And then we'll help you out, even giving you a constitution and bylaws, right? And so, yeah, and that was just all weird too, because it's like, so they ended up coming up with constitution and bylaws like for us, and it was like literally, like if you go tribe to tribe and you were to compare like a 1936 draft of constitution and bylaws, like they just pretty much just changed the name on the front while like all like pretty much the rest of the laws are all the same.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, blood quantum, you got, how to determine membership and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's just like, say like, like if I were to compare, like say Kashia's constitution and bylaws with like ours, and it, at the same time, 1936, it would be exactly the same.
Okay.
But yeah, so that happened, and then we elected our first chair, which his name was Stephen Parrish.
In
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, Parrish comes from here.
PA.
Yeah, Manchester, Point Arena.
Okay, yeah.
And like, which I'll get to that part. And like, so, and then he ended up getting a loan. I think it was like $25,000 loan. $25,000 loan from the Bureau, for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and he used that to be able to purchase what is now known as the Point Arena side of the Rancheria. Okay, and that started out as a dairy farm. He ended up getting like dairy cows. He ended up getting like farmhouses, like building supplies and all that stuff. And started got all the machines, the pumping machines and all that stuff, and started a dairy farm. And for that chunk of time, say like maybe like around like maybe let's say like 1940, that our dairy operation started, and then up until like about the 60s, somewhere around in the 60s, that's when we lost it.
Oh, okay. My mom says she kind of remembers that shack they call the Wally Shack, that being something back in the day. But I can't remember.
You can still see some of the old structures there from like when the dairy farm was operational. Like even in that old circle there, that was just the homes for the workers.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And that was us.
Yeah.
But like,
so the top circle definitely has only existed in the last 40 years, 50 years?
Since the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Since the 80s, that's when they put the homes in.
I see.
And it took them like 15 years to get it all done. I want to say maybe like shorter than that. I know that there were some issues over that. I know that there was like a chunk of people that didn't want the homes there, but then like the tribe was just all like, well, you say that, but our numbers tell us that a lot of our people are homeless, and they need homes, and we're going to get them homes. Part of that push. One of like say like my Uncle Norman and my grandmother, they were all part of that push to be able to get Northern Circle homes here.
Yeah.
And what do you call it? And there was like an incident. Well, no. So there was so we ended up getting the homes, but it was like much later. And then we ended up and so filling them up and stuff, and now it turned out like people depend on them now.
Yeah.
It's just like we didn't want them at that time, or there was a portion of us that didn't want them, but then now it's like we are thankful that we have them.
Yeah.
We're not going to say it like that. I don't think we're, I'm pretty sure there's some people who live there that are proven wrong, and they're not going to say like, oh, I'm thankful now.
Yeah.
But they are thankful. We are thankful.
Yeah.
For the homes, But yeah, so with that, what was it? There was a piece. I feel like there's a piece that I was missing there. But that's how we pretty much acquired that. I mean, I know that over the years, there's this sort of like Point Arena versus Manchester, Manchester versus Point Arena kind of mentality, right? Politically, we may have that as a people, right? Or even just as families. Politically, that is one reservation. Politically. It's just like how you have the United States and Alaska. Just because Canada is there doesn't mean that Alaska is its own thing. It's the United States.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just because Hawaii is across a big-ass ocean does not mean it's part of the United States. Puerto Rico does not mean it's not part of the United States. Yeah. It's all part of the United States. Just like, even though there's a river right there and you got ranches and all that stuff that sort of like separate the lands,
Yeah.
right? It's still the Manchester Band of Poma Indians and the Manchester Point Arena Rancheria. Definitely want to make that clear. And uh, and it's so funny that that say like we get hung up on these township names.
Yeah.
I mean, just throwing it out there. I definitely still since we're in this like mode now of decolonization,
Mm-hmm.
decolonize our name and call it Padahau.
Padahau.
Padahau Band of Pomo Indians. Padahau.
Padahau.
Uh-huh.
And hear that, everyone? We're Manchester reservation, not PA. No, just kidding.
Decolonize. I don't mean to make fun of nobody, but it just actually, it kind of disheartened me at one time when I was on council that I proposed that and nobody was for it.
It's insane. Like, I completely stand behind changing a name from a colonizer's name to the actual village name.
It's just like, yeah, it's like, what was it? I posted this multiple times on Facebook just saying, like, I would rather, like, I don't, what was it? Instead of identifying ourselves by white township names, I don't know how much clearer I need to make that sound that, those township names, we are older than those township names. We should not be identifying ourselves with things that we are older than.
Yeah.
But it was even older people that even I've heard them later even say that, like, oh yeah, I heard that there was some kind of talk about wanting to rename the tribe, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like our language, but it's just like what do you call it? It's old. Like, why would you want to bring back old stuff?
That's insane. like,
I could be dropping names, but I ain't gonna do that.
Nah. That's like, I don't understand the thought process behind that.
Yeah. So I'm still pretty passionate about that. I'm just waiting for the time to where, everybody else will catch up. Just waiting for that time, I think the kids will catch up a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But it's just it's like the older, even like, yeah, I would say like the older generation is like, is not too comfortable with that.
And they're even like, because I got invited to speak at a teaching in Fort Bragg. They're trying to change the name of Fort Bragg as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because like you said, there was that fort and they marched people to Round Valley. And I was kind of thinking, did any situation like that happen to the tribe here?
Yes. I mean, some groups did, but like we were migrant workers.
Mm-hmm.
With families, we bounced back and forth between like say like here, working for the ranches here.
Yeah.
And then when the work was done here, go back into the valley, work some more.
I see.
Say like for my family, when it comes to say like my gram, her brothers and sisters, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, grandmother, that they went as far as going into Healdsburg working at a cannery.
And back then, to travel that far,
yeah,
was
she remembers. She even remembered how one time there was a raid,
mm-hmm.
like migration raid, that came through like this when they were like, I think they were like picking peas or something. They were going through this migration raid, and like what was it? It was my cousin Sarah Lee, who she was working right next to my mom, and then my mom was there too, but like I think they were like picking peas. She'd be able to correct me later, but if I'm wrong about that, but like they were picking, and then she said there was like you could see all these workers, just working doing their thing, and then somebody said La Migra, and then all of a sudden they were just like, what? And then they turned around and all of them just like took off, like
everyone's gone.
They were hiding in the bushes, and I guess like this like even like Sarah Lee, I guess she was like picking in this one area, then she's like, what's that? She ended up lifting up and like parting the bush. It's like in a movie.
Yeah.
Like parted the bush, and the guy was just like shh, and then she was just like ah. But
times haven't changed. The same shit's happening.
So like so migration came there, picked up a bunch of people, and then he was asking like if if say like he was pointing at like my gram and them and saying that like are these people okay and stuff, he was just like, yeah, don't take them, the farmer at that time. He's like, yeah, don't take them. He goes, they're Indians. He goes, they're from here, they're Indians. And then my gram would make jokes about that, saying that like she goes like, yeah, I could have been taken to Mexico. I could have been eating jalapenos. She's
You know what's crazy is that same exact thing is happening right now.
Yeah, I mean it's it really the news when news came out about when that one Navajo person ended up getting detained for like 9 hours.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's like it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But,
And it's just the lack of training on tribal IDs and tribal like sovereignty on the ICE agents is wild.
yeah, it is wild. And then then too, it's like what do you call it? Oh man, what was I gonna say? But anyways, it's it's just interesting how like oh, that's what I was gonna say. They want to make it sound like it's all about like illegal immigration. I mean, if it was really about illegal immigration, then say like undocumented Irish people, undocumented people from England, undocumented people from I don't know Germany. There's those people do exist.
Yeah.
And it's like.
Well, that just happened
But
with.
I'm pretty sure they're not in fear because they're not brown.
Yeah. Well, that just happened with a bunch of Ukrainian refugees, right? Or Ukrainian refugees got accepted into the country.
Sure.
But then, no one bats an eye, right?
Yeah.
But then that happens to another country, like you're saying, the same exact situation, but a person's brown. Then it's like deport them.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it's like. It's just like they're not saying that like, oh, we're just going after the illegals, and it's just like I don't think like either they do know that or they just don't want to admit that when they say illegals, they have this picture in their head of a brown person.
Yeah,
they do, and like it's just interesting how racism can still like work its way. Ignorance can still work its way into how we into language that is supposed to be something autonomous, right? Like lawbreakers and stuff. But then it's like when you think lawbreakers, it's just like I think the first person that comes to a lot of people's mind is a person of color.
Yeah.
So racism is still there. People still see color, and but to go back to the reservation, that's we are one res. Politically, one res. There's no
two different reses.
There's just I guess I was on that thing where I just wanted to call it the north side and the south side.
I see.
North side of the river, south side of the river.
Are you from north or south? Not just kidding.
Exactly. Fucking let's go Mexican. Mexican gangs.
And I've been asking this to everybody that comes on the podcast just to see what their perspective is, because a lot of people would give younger selves a lot of different advice. So I just wanted to tap in and see how you're feeling about what you would give your 16-year-old self. What advice you would give your 16-year-old self?
What advice would I give myself when I was 16? I don't know. I'll be 40 this year. I'll just tell them. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, man, because I regret nothing. Just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe if anything, like right when you hit 30, you need to start exercising. You need to start exercising. It's like I told you, like I was telling you before, before the record button got hit, just telling you all these things about my discoveries with like how much protein you're supposed to have a day or what goals you should be aiming for yourself, burning 500 calories a day, doing it for 5 to 6 days out of the week, taking a good 24 48 hour break, and doing that, drinking plenty of water, like all that stuff, man. It's just like it really like Maybe that's the thing that I would tell myself. Be like, you need to eat more protein. Eat more protein. Drink water. Just drink water, dude. You'll be better off.
I love to drink water. I need to do that.
Yeah.
I've been trying to stay off of soda. It's been hard, but
Oh yeah, yeah. And then every so often, you get the energy drink. I don't
Yeah.
know if there's like a sponsorship issue or anything, but
Monster, you want to sponsor? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, honestly, I've never even.
you're all like, I'll let you in the wagon. You're cool.
Yeah. I've honestly never even drank those energy drinks, so I don't even know how it would make me feel.
Oh yeah. Make you feel pretty good.
Yeah. Is there any topics that I didn't bring up or we didn't really touch on today that
You have on that list there?
we have? Okay, we can talk about memories of grass game, real quick.
Oh yeah, Mary's grass game.
Your first memories of grass game.
Well, yeah, I learned from Clarence. This was like later in life.
Okay, I was thinking that you had learned earlier in your life.
People think that. Maybe I just hold myself like that, but I don't.
You definitely do. I definitely would have thought that this came very early in your life.
Nope. Learned that from Clarence. I think when I came back to live here, which was like in 20. I mean, it is a lot of years ago. We're talking like over 10 years ago that I came back home.
Yeah.
And I was like, I ended up Googling stuff and learning more stuff about. I was like, grass game, like what's that? And then from this book called Pomo Folkways by what the heck's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name right now. But Pomo Folkways, and it's free PDF. You could use that for free online. And it's an old book. Interview people from here, Coast Central Pomo, and it's really cool. It's really cool. Like I was like, man, this is like the first time I actually get to like hear like a narrative about our people, or even like coming across those notes on the California Language Archives and seeing like, wow, we do have like a thunder being, oh wow, we do have like a coyote. Like my only kind of like real exposure to like Indian stories was like from that movie called from that Dreamkeeper. With that one old guy. I can't remember his name. I just remember him as Augustus. Augustus something. But he's from Canada. I just like the man's voice.
I see.
He has a really good voice. Too bad he's like passed and gone now. But he was actually in Grand Avenue.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember Grand Avenue.
I heard about it. It's a movie that had a bunch of natives in it, right?
Oh yeah, dude, Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
And but yeah, he was in that movie. But in that one, he was like a storyteller. In Dreamkeeper, he was a storyteller, old Lakota storyteller, and then he got his grandson to take him across the country to go to this Gathering of Nations powwow to where he could continue his tradition of telling stories. And then along the way, he's like telling his grandson about stories and stuff. And yeah, it's just really cool. And then there's a part in there where it's like they break down and stuff, and then his grandson's complaining about how they have to walk. He's like, he goes, me, I have to. And then his grandfather cuts him off, and he's just like, he goes, that's all I hear from you. And then he's just all like, he goes, what happened to we? He goes, there's no such thing in our language as I, me, just we, us. He was just saying that kind of stuff. I was just like, dude, I just love that.
That's tight. I love that too. Do you have any stories that you've came across that's like, this is the one that I like to tell the most?
The one is like the creation story. I guess it's one that I do like to tell. And I got it to a point where I tell it to the little kids, and they sort of help me tell the story. It's just like, oh yeah, here comes Coyote. He's just walking along, and so it's like, yeah, just keep walking. And everybody stops, and then oh yeah, there's two frog women, pounding some kind of poison or something, and you're just like doing this. And of course, this is funny. The little kids, they're still little, so they're just like, oh yeah, we're doing this. But if you try to do it with the older kids, they're just like, oh yeah. It's like, it's funny how like the older we get, the grosser we get. But little kids, man,
they're just doing it.
Yeah, little kids are just like, oh yeah, cool. I was like, that's where I was just like, because actually, Anne actually did that, had the kids do that story.
Yeah.
With like, try to do it with like all the classes for like Native American Heritage Day, or something like that. And it was at the school there. They did it in the multi-purpose room, and and then she was just like, yeah, you think like you think like all the kids would be cool in wanting to do that, and I'm just like, as far as I don't know about the older kids.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, oh yeah, I get to see an experiment. Experiment that I don't have to do at my expense, right?
Yeah.
Because as far as when it comes to like getting some guidelines as to like what to share, would be from the since time immemorial curriculum from state of Washington.
Oh, okay.
And I recommend anybody if you ever if somebody approaches you and be all like, oh, could you come and teach us XYZ, and you're not sure, right? Because you know how like you're just like I don't know. You took my land. Yeah, so just go there and it'll give you some really good, excellent guidelines as to like K through what is it? It's like K through 3, K through 4. That's where you get to just do fun stuff.
I see.
You get to like do storytelling. You get to talk about like the villages and where this was at, where that was at, that kind of stuff. But when you get to middle school, that's where it's like all the fun stuff's gone. Middle school, you learn about contact, right? Contact, colonization, that kind of stuff. And then in high school, that's where you learn about post-colonization. So like what were the after effects of colonization? So it's like stuff that's still law, like the Public Law 280, which to my understanding, somebody responded in one of my posts because I was trying to think of facts to share for Native American Heritage Month.
Mm-hmm.
That like brought up Public Law 280, but a good friend of mine ended up bringing up something saying that like actually law enforcement agencies don't try to like acknowledge that anymore. Like they sort of like they were sort of like trained to like not be as like not to acknowledge that law to where it's just like, say if they get called to handle a situation on the reservation, like they do not have the option to not handle it, because in Public Law 280 it says on there that they do have the option whether or not to handle a situation on the reservation.
So you're saying if a cop was called like for our res, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has the option of saying, no, I don't want to go out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to Public Law 280, he does have that option. But now they're saying, don't do that.
Okay.
Just if they call you, go out there
Go
and
out
do
there
it.
no matter what.
They're U.S. citizens.
Okay.
We are dual citizens. Like we are tribal citizens as well as U.S. citizens.
Okay.
Still, man, like come on, humanity. It's just like what do you call it? Kurt Vonnegut, one of my favorite quotes. We are healthy. What was it? Our ideas. Oh yeah, shit, I'm messing it up. Only to the extent our ideas are humane. Yeah, but anyways, something like that. I'll get back to you on that.
Anytime I try to think of a quote, I always do that.
Oh, we are healthy only to the extent our ideas are humane.
There we go.
Humane. Keep it humane, dude. But yeah, so when it comes to grass game and stuff, I learned that later, and I just ever since then, man, I just loved it. But then it's like in the first part, I know Clarence like shared with us like a version of that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's more of like our way of playing. But then I went at where it first just clicked.
Yeah.
Of like how like the sticks work and all that all that stuff works, is that I went to Pit River Country and played at a tournament. We lost twice, but I learned so much from it there.
Yeah.
Which it was cool. I still have the shirt. It's their it said first annual on it. And I was thinking like, oh, cool. They're gonna have it like every year. But shout out to Pit River, man. I'm still waiting for that second annual grass game tournament, man.
Pit River.
Dude, love it up
Line
there,
it
dude.
up.
Love it up there. Bernie, Big Pines. It's like it's a real nice place.
Pit River listeners, line it up.
Pit River Country, dude. Yeah, that's where it's at. And then, but yeah, that's where I really got the hang of it,
Mm-hmm.
and and then I myself acting as a facilitator of grass game, and sharing the game, sharing the, being able to present that, especially anything that has to do with their youth. It's just like one time I got reached out. One time somebody reached out to me asking if I could come by their place, and like play grass game as like sort of like a holistic thing. And I'm just like,
It's a little weird.
no.
Yeah.
Like I just like to do it for the kids, because it's like the kids need to know first.
Yeah.
It's like the kids need to know first, and that's where it should start.
Well,
with the kids.
Yeah, and I like Sean last week on the episode. He had a quote, or he said something that about like naming your kids like in native names, like traditional native names, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Just by that, they're starting their lives off already knowing a word, like a traditional Pomo word. So I really I definitely agree with all that. So yeah.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah. When it comes to, well, there's a difference between like naming your kid and spelling. Spelling is always political, and it shouldn't be political. Because it's like, I think like where the conversation needs to start with that is just like, do we want to go for accuracy when it comes to pronunciation, or do we want to sort of anglicize our language through spelling?
And make it easier for people that don't speak the language to say these names.
To don't speak, or even then to like, it's like this is because most native people are English speakers now.
Yeah.
We can read English. We could read English, write English. It's hard for us to learn anything outside of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that just comes with the territory of being like native anything. It's hard just to learn something new for some people.
Yeah.
It's hard to learn something new. But when it comes to say like using like the International Phonetic Alphabet, or even the Americanist Phonetic Alphabet, which is my num de plum, that the Americanist Phonetic Alphabet, you could use that to be able to clearly decipher if you're doing an aspirated CH sound or just a regular CH sound. And say like the difference between just a regular CH sound and an aspirated CH sound can totally change the meaning of a whole word. So it's like, say like you have, I don't know, say like, just for example, just for the sound of it, right? You got cha, cha, and then you have cha, cha.
Cha, cha.
Yeah, cha. So it's like those are two different sounds, and they do exist in Central Pomo. They exist in, I think, just in Pomo country in general, that those sounds exist. But say when it comes to like, I don't know, the glottal stop. English has no glottal stop, but you know what? In their alphabet, English does it. But English, dude, we use it all the time. Like, say like, when you say yes, you don't say yes, but you go, uh-huh. Like how you're doing, uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
You're doing the glottal stop.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. So you're like, when you feel like you're have that bit of stoppage in your breath, that's the glottal stop.
Oh, I see.
So in Spanish, they have a glottal stop. It's represented with the H, but they say it's silent. But that is the glottal stop.
That's tripped out.
Yeah. Spanish in their alphabet has a glottal stop. Yeah. Represented as a H.
That's cool.
And then, but yeah, when it comes, I was just like, yeah, I totally like love that when it comes to people naming their kids, like, like a word, or, whether it's like using a verb or whether it's using a noun, either one. But it's like, the only thing is, it's just like, when it comes to spelling, you're just all like, I guess like for myself, if I had to say, like, if I ever have grandkids, I definitely want to, I definitely would have to be and if my kids want their kids to be named something in our language, I would have to think, should I be stubborn and just stick to using all these symbols, or just so that they don't totally feel left out, should I try to make it to where, it's okay for any English person to be able to read it, even though it's not as accurate?
Yeah, that's a tough call. Very tough call.
Yeah.
And that we were talking about that with Linda just a little bit ago, where in Kalasha there's a apostrophe or whatever in her name, and yeah, just like is that I was just wondering, is
The
that
apostrophe.
like yeah there is,
Yeah, that could act as a glottal stop.
and that's what I was just like kind of thinking about, like
Well,
is that
depending on where it's pointed. Like if it's pointed this way, like if it's curved this way, that's glottal stop. If it's curved this way, in say like Halpern's writings, if it's curved, if there's an apostrophe that's like reversed,
yeah
that represents an aspiration,
okay, and what would that sound like?
like cha
Cha, okay,
cha,
so like cha lasa or
or so in that one it'd be alasha.
oh okay
Alasha.
I see. I think
Aspiration for the A, right?
yeah.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. But yeah, this just was a conversation we were having, and I just like.
Or is it kalasha?
I think it's Kalasha.
Oh.
Wait, no.
So if there's-
I don't want to.
So there's apostrophe. Okay. Well, okay. Let's just assume that.
Yeah.
So so if there's a K and it has an apostrophe there, that would be a plosive. So it'd say like so that you'd be saying it kalasha.
Oh, okay.
Kalasha.
Yeah, Kalasha.
Yeah, kalasha. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna have to ask her for sure. But what side and I'm sure she's gonna listen to this and she'll let us know.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's it's really like intricate stuff.
Yeah, it really is, and I really wasn't really thinking about like you're saying the apostrophe facing the different way.
So there's even that. But like and then going back to like say like the difference like when it comes to going back to the ch, there's a so let's start with ch, just a regular ch, but then there's also a cha.
Cha.
Okay, yeah, you do that good. But like what do you call it? That makes a huge difference to a word. Huge difference. So like say like if you wanted to say there's back and then there's louse or like head lice. So if you want to say back, you would say chi.
Chi.
But if you want to say head lice, you would say chi.
Chi. And not as much of a. Okay, I see.
So you got chi, which is your back, and chi, which is your head lice. Chi atala. Oh, my back hurts. My back is hurting.
Atala.
Yeah.
Is
Or chi
hurting.
atala.
Atala.
Not atala.
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 And then so if you just decide you want to say that, but then you're not too keen on the cheese and the chi, you're instead of saying back, you're gonna say my bugs hurt.
So it really matters, like, and I've done this. My mom has done this, corrected me, and like you have to say like so how you pronounce certain letters or whatever. It really matters then, right? Okay.
Yep. The plosives. Yeah, that kind of stuff, dude. It really does matter. Or even like the glottal stops. Like if you want to say, what was it? If you want to say, like there's cho. I think it's cho, which is I want to say that's wait. There's cho. Cho is like no, absolutely not. No, that's cho. No, cho. Or it even means nothing. Like say like oh, do you have money? You'd be like peso cho.
Peso cho.
No money. Money none. Money none. Is what you're saying. Money none. And then but I think it's like if you want to say B, I want to say it's B. You'd be like cho.
Cho.
Yeah, I think it's cho is the B.
Bee like the bee that buzzes.
Like the buzzing bee.
Yeah, okay.
A bumblebee.
Cho. Heck yeah.
Cho. So it's like if you're trying to say B, but then you're just all like, wow, whatever. You're gonna keep saying like no.
Oh, okay. Cho.
Yeah, there's cho and then there's cho.
I love it.
Yeah, there's a glottal stop there. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I was talking.
But then if you say cho, that can mean glad.
Oh, okay.
The verb glad.
Cho.
Yeah, you can say choda.
Chota.
That means I'm glad.
Okay. Right on. And I think that's just about. Unless you had any topics that you wanted to bring
What else
up.
you got there?
We had storytelling, memories, grass game, advice for 16-year-old self, Any other topics that you wanted to bring up?
Drink water. Drink water. Water is life. Ka esimu. Water is life. Okay. Don't. Yeah. I mean, I encourage you to drink every once in a while, and I'm just saying that because I'm judging myself too. But yeah, just live good, do right. You can do whatever you want in this life, just harm no one. Okay. Yeah. Whoever's listening to this, and be good neighbors. You can still be yourself. It's all right. Diversity is nothing to be afraid of. And be responsible. Like there's a difference between appropriation and appreciation. Appropriation, just like how I had a recent conversation or in a post, somebody saying that oh, like luau parties, it's just part of the revolution of cultural sharing. It's just like, nah, bro, that's appropriation. Appropriation sucks.
Yeah.
I was like, appreciation would be all like, if they had a party, some kind of like party idea to where they went to like a market where there was like a bunch of Hawaiian people there selling their crafts and all that stuff, and then you buying their crafts, that is appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I was just like, appropriation isn't cool. It's not. You pretty much using somebody else's culture for your own entertainment is not cool.
Nope.
It ain't cool, man. And yeah, they went on and on and on, and I ignored them. But like, but yeah. So be conscious of that. It's not hard. I don't think I've. But yeah. Just live good, do right, be good neighbors, and what do you call it? Continue to support Juan.
Thank you, guys.
Continue to support this dude.
Thank you, and thank you, Sal, for coming on. I think this is your third time.
Oh yeah, my third time.
Yep, right on. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And peace and love, guys.